So tsaras itself is a representation of the original evil, which was expressed by the Nochash, who brought about destruction of the world. Now, a person's a Mitzorah, he has to go out of all the camps. It's the equivalent of Tumas Mes. If a person walks under a tree or goes into a house where there's a leper, a person becomes contaminated like he's contaminated with the dead. It's the exact same thing. What is death? Death is a direct outgrowth of the Ra of the Eitzadas. Tsaras is an outgrowth of what brought about that evil, introduced that evil into existence. That's what it is. So a person, that evil, the reason why the Ramchal, why does a person have to die? The reason why a person has to die is because that evil, which is the foreskin, which is intermingled in the human being, cannot be eternal. Person has to die, decomposes, and ultimately, when there's going to be Tchias HaMeisim, to be resurrected, the only thing that's going to be resurrected is the pure matter of the body, but that Ra is going to remain in the ground. That's not coming back. As a result of that, the only way a person could be recovered from tsaras, as long as he has it, he has to go out of all the camps. He's a pariah, because he represents something which is the epitome of that Ra, of that evil. That's the reason. So therefore, the only way a person could recover from leprosy is only through tshuva. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't accept his tshuva, he remains a leper for the rest of his life. He's chutz lamachne. Bodad Yeshiv is all by himself outside of the camp. Only through tshuva is he able to recover from the tsaras. Without tshuva, it doesn't happen. So really, tshuva for tsaras is the equivalent of the Tchias HaMeisim. That Ra, which is the tsaras, is the equivalent of the Ra, which is within the person. The Chafetz Chaim writes in the Shmir Saloshen later that he cites a certain sefer that today that we no longer have tsaras, we no longer have the leprosy, which is discussed in the Torah. It's not an illness. It's not an illness, but rather it's just a tag. Today we don't have it any longer. There's a famous Siforno because it's a nes. It's a miracle. It's equivalent of a nes goloi, a revealed miracle. But how does it manifest itself? In anius. Because people speak Lashon Hara, therefore you find throughout history the Jewish people have been impoverished. Especially after the Churban Bayis Sheni, through all the exiles, poverty is a very serious problem among Jews. We're always, besides being downtrodden, but we're poor. And he explains that poverty replaced the tsaras. So you think about it, why? It says, Birchas Hashem hi tisasher. The bracha of Hashem brings wealth. But if a person is laden with Lashon Hara, and Lashon Hara represents evil, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants nothing to do with evil. So as a result of that, the bracha cannot come there. The bracha is directly associated with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But because the person has this, the liability of speaking Lashon Hara, which normally manifests itself as tsaras, today we don't have it. The way it manifests itself is what? Is through poverty. That's the Chafetz Chaim. He cites this certain sefer. Now it's interesting. A child, before he's a parent who has a boy, doesn't reveal the name, make the name public knowledge until the bris. Once the child is circumcised, the moyel names the name the parent wants to give the child. Only then does it become known what the name is. Until then, you don't make it known. Why? Because the shame is called Shem Kodesh. It's the Jewish name which tells you what the destiny of that child is going to be. To associate that name with the Orla, which is a representation of the Ra, of the Eitzadas, we don't want that in any way to be associated with that. So only after the foreskin is removed, only then does that name have relevance to that child. That's the reason why the only people who know the name are the parents, or people who have to know the name, but otherwise it's not public knowledge what the name of that child is. For that reason, because the foreskin itself is a representation of what? Of Ra. That's the reason.